Hey everyone, and welcome to the Tom's Hardware Piecast for February 23rd, 2021. At least if you are still on February 23rd, our special guest is actually is actually on the 24th. He's living in the future, which is very appropriate considering the futuristic project he's going to be showing us shortly. As always, I'm Avram Pelcher, editor-in-chief of Tom's Hardware, and I'm joined by Associate Editor Les Pounder and Raspberry Pi expert Ash Puckett. And today we have a very special guest, SureWin Yap, who is dialing in all the way from the Philippines to share with us a really incredible robot project that he's been working on. So thank you so much for joining us, SureWin.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Thanks for the invite, Avram. Hi, Les and Nash.
Hey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hello. Great. So can you, just before we get started talking about your project, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how what you do, how you got started with Raspberry Pi and robotics?
Yeah, sure. As a kid, I was actually I have this penchant for opening my toys up and checking how things work. And my mom actually enrolled me into a programming school when I was like 10 years old. So that combined, I got really interested in robotics. So when I went to college, went to the university, I chose the only robotics course available in the Philippines at that time, which is manufacturing engineering and management from the De La Salle University. It's the only robotics program that they have. So I took that. During that time, actually, I also because of my coding skills, I learned to hack computers for fun and hack other people's computers, like opening up their CD trays or um, checking their chat logs and all these things and calling people
That's
up.
the best way to learn.
Yeah, it was juvenile fun, but yeah, it got me to really fall in love with coding and all. With that skill, when I graduated, I was fortunate enough to get hired by one of the top energy companies in the world. I worked there after university and up to now, the same company. So that's my day job. So I'm basically now a manager handling for my career is like supply chain and also facilities management. So that's basically in terms of my background. But uh, being a manager, you don't have time to do the robotic stuff. So I need to travel, talk to my people, to talk to staff, and all these things. So really, didn't have enough time. But with the pandemic, I and everybody is in quarantine, so I decided really I need to get back into the game. So with the pandemic, I got myself a Raspberry Pi and learned Python. And then so yeah, after learning Python, I got myself into projects like LED lights, moving. It's like the Night Rider lights. I don't know if Ash still knows what Night Rider is, but
Oh, there's a name. There's a name for that. Sure, wasn't that called? What do you call it, Les?
Well, the light effect.
Yeah, the light effect.
The one is moving.
Was it
Larson scanner?
Larson scanner, right?
Yeah. So that one, the scanner thing, and then yeah, so I made about 30 projects, more than 30 projects already. So, but I only have actually two Raspberry Pis. I remember saw one of your videos. You have over 40, is it? Is that correct?
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah, no.
Be proud.
No joke. We ask everybody. You preempted our asking. We ask everybody how many Raspberry. No, it's okay. We ask everybody how many Raspberry Pis they have.
Well, which one did you pick up first? When you said you started playing with them, what was the first one you grabbed?
The 3B Plus. I got the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus.
What about the second?
I really like the GPIO. Sorry, the second one is the Raspberry Pi 4.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
those are the only two Pis that I have.
Yeah, I mean, I think what happens to a bunch of us, and maybe you'll see it happen to you, is that you have Raspberry Pis that are in various states of use. So like you don't want to yank it out of the breadboard or the project
Mm.
or whatever. This happens a lot with me and my son, where it's just like, he will just like move from one thing to another and get frustrated and stop, and then but I don't want to yank it out. So like, we have, here's a Pico or whatever we have. Having a breadboard, it's not so easy to pull these things in and out all the time. The pins get bent, whatever. So, we just need more and more and more to put into more different things. But it's just really impressive what you have built. So you're building a complete robot. Is that correct?
So, sort of. I think I have all the projects. If I just put it into one robot, then I can have it. So I have the electric wheelchair that I can control already using some same Raspberry Pi and Arduino. And then I also have two hands here. That's This one is just two servo motors, just open and close, thumb and the other fingers. And this one would have six servo motors, so quite a lot of different movements. I connected this to the Leap motion controller. I also have well, it's not connected yet, but the cameras connected to Raspberry Pi 4, where I can use the TensorFlow AI object detection. So those things I can put in. So I actually have complete robot, I think, already.
Does your robot have a name?
Oh, not yet. So I'm taking suggestions. So if you have any suggestions with it, people think it looks like Johnny Number Five from the Short Circuit movie.
Yeah, I
Does
was
it?
going to suggest that something like Johnny Number 6.
Ah,
Yeah,
maybe number 8. It's a luckier number.
yeah, it's true. It's also that many versions ahead, right? You
Yeah.
just skip ahead. So the hands work, correct? Do the eyes work and it can roll around?
No. The eyes are just put in. They're actually spare spice racks that I 3D printed that for air. So they're just there for aesthetics for now.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I saw online when you posted this that you actually can control the hands remotely. Can you explain how you do that?
Sure. The hands is controlled by a Leap motion controller, uh, which is the same technology. If you saw one of Elon Musk's YouTube videos wherein he was trying to control something a 3D design of an engine or something using just gestures of his hand. So that's the same technology that I'm using. And then it's connected to it sends data to the through Wi-Fi to the Raspberry Pi. Raspberry Pi then picks it up and then operates the servo motors. Basically, that's it. You want me to
Yeah.
demonstrate it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Please.
sure.
Please do.
Okay.
Cool.
I'm also really impressed, by the way, at how realistic the hands look.
Yeah, it's actually I just downloaded this off Thingiverse or My Mini Factory. It's a guy called Ryan, named Ryan Gross. So really good work. Both of them actually are came from him. The design came from him.
That's cool.
Okay, hang on. Let me just.
That's neat.
Let me just. Oh, something's wrong. Usually happens when you're on the show.
Always.
Curse of the live demo.
You know what I like is you can see here that when you lift up your hand on your second screen, it
This one,
actually
yeah.
shows an impression of your hand. So that's using leap motion to capture your hand.
Yes, that's correct. This it's a visualizer of leap motion. You have it. Oh,
Very nice.
Yeah, that is slick. And this is all in Python.
yes, I wrote it all in Python. Uh, the the natural language of this one, I think, is in Java. So I wanted to incorporate a lot more of my other projects into the robot. So I wanted to use the Raspberry Pi instead, so that I can put more projects in.
Fire Lord Nora asks, "How long did this take?"
Hang on. The printing took longer than everything else. So printing is like a week of the 3D printing. The programming probably around 2 days, because I needed to learn. Um, nah, we have a problem.
As with any demo, this will happen.
Mm.
It also happened, and I'm as a parent, I can attest it happens when you're demoing your children, right?
Oh,
Like
you know what?
when you're demoing your children, my daughter who's 2 will say a bunch of words, right? Like, because she's just learning to speak, and then I'll bring her over to somebody, like my wife or whatever, be like, "Hey, look, she said this. Say it again." Won't do it.
Wow, that's
I love the leap motion. I got to find out how you how you did that. How you got the just even how you get the demo hand on the screen, because I think that would be
no.
really neat.
It's a simple executable file that you can that you just download.
Fire Lord Nora again asks, "Is learning Java easy?" Because I'm going to try to learn to code in
Uh,
Java for my own mods or games. I will
I
throw this
wouldn't.
open to everyone. What do you, what do you think, Lesson Ash?
My college tried to teach Java as like their programming course. Java was the first real language they wanted us to learn, and I think whether or not it's easy depends on if you have any programming experience already, because there are concepts that are just consistent in any programming languages, and having just an idea of how software works in general is going to take you there a lot faster than if you are just learning software programming for the first time.
What do you say? What do you say, Les?
Any language is easy or hard depending on what you want to do with it. If you've got a clear goal in mind, if you want to accomplish something, you'll overcome how hard it is by wanting to learn and go further to push yourself to make that thing happen. So I learned Python years ago because I wanted to do something. So I sat down and I learned enough Python to do that thing, and then it just went on and on from there. I've done a little bit of Java. It's not my favorite language in the world, but it's not my least favorite. And I can do stuff with it, and I can fulfill a need and get it done. The same with JavaScript or any other language, really. Just give it a go and have a clear goal in mind and see how far you can go.
It kind of ties into what Sherwin was saying earlier about how he was learning a lot of programming from having to hack into his friends' computers and stuff. If you have a goal in mind, you're going to figure out.
That's the only way to learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all speak of this from experience. If you have a goal, then you will learn. If you just set out to say, "I'm going to learn this programming language," without a project that you're building toward, then you won't learn. Like I'm ashamed to admit, I really wanted to learn Mandarin language. I spent like years studying, taking night classes, but I never had anybody to practice with, and forgot everything, never got really good at it. that's a human language, not a programming language, but the same applies. Now, when I mind you, when I had to learn there was a very specific app I wanted to make in C Sharp, and I'd never written C Sharp before. I figured out how to do it. Now, that may not always be the best, because you may come into it just trying to figure out how to do the thing you want to do and sort of skipping over some of the basics, which is what I end up doing a lot, just kind of getting to exactly what I want to do with it. And then maybe I'll see something that's very basic and I'll be like, hey, wait, I don't know what that means. But unless you have a goal in mind, you're going to get bored and you're not going to do it. It has to have come up with a project that you want to come up with, a very specific project that you want to do. So, it's is that fair to say? Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, sometimes you have to fill in the gaps after you've skipped over something crucial, but every now and then you find something new that you can use.
Yep. So SureWin, I see you got some movement on your hand.
Yeah, so there's something wrong with it. I just tested it before the show, but anyway, what I can probably show you for now is the other hand, where you can control it via a mobile phone with just the accelerometer. So this is just two servos. You can download this easily. It's an IMU wireless. It's called wireless IMU. You just put in the IP address, and then you write the code in Raspberry Pi, and then you can do this. Can you see it? The
Oh,
movement.
fun!
Depending. So it gets
That's cool.
the x-axis of the computer.
I
I'm
love the
afraid
sound of
that's
the servos.
yeah. I'm afraid that's all I can show you for now. Maybe while you guys are discussing the other projects, and come back to me later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question about your build. So you 3D printed the hands. How many servos does each hand have?
Each finger would have one, except for the ring and pinky finger, which is just one servo, so you can't do this. So, but all the rest would have one servo. The thumb has two, actually, because it's an opposable. It follows opposable thumb, so it goes like this.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Cool.
So you have both hands wired up to the same Pi?
For now, no, but you can actually do that. I use my two pies for now.
So are you using a particular hat to get access to that many servos? Do you have a motor controller?
Yeah. So for the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus, which is connected to this the left hand, I use a PCA 9685. That's the servo sort of like servo controller, multi servo controller.
Mhm.
Wow. And how much would you say it costs you to put together all these parts?
So the printing, if I don't include the electricity that I use, probably it's around less than $100 for just the hands and the servos. Um, yeah, less than $100. But if because I have a plan to include the shoulders and biceps, it will probably reach me about 200 to $300. Yeah.
What's your end goal for this robot? Are you going to try and make it do other things?
Uh, Actually, I don't know yet. Maybe a telepresence robot, so I can incorporate like a VR camera, so that it moves around and goes to a store and orders something for me. Especially it's up now. Now that it's on, we're on.
Very timely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've always, I've one thing I've always wanted to build with Raspberry Pi is a telepresence robot, but getting it to actually have hands is so impressive and important, because there's a lot of telepresence robots that one can buy that are basically iPads on a stick, and they can roll around and they can see things and talk to things, which is great, and that's table stakes. But being able to actually touch something, do you know if those hands can pick up objects? Like, how good are they at grasping things?
I think they're pretty strong. These ones are pretty strong because they have, for example, especially this one, it has one servo per finger, and this one just two servos. It's pretty strong already, so it can pick up a mug, I guess. That's
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be, once you get to a point where you can drive it around, be neat to see if it can go in an elevator, right? Like, you could get in an elevator, press the button to go to the floor that it needs to go to, then know where it's going, go out. But I think, like, hands-on, like actually touching things with a robot, is really the next step that makes going to make telepresence awesome. And so that's going to really prove the need for a robot, right? Because we kind of already have telepresence in, sitting at our computer right now, getting video off of it. But the ability to not only see things that are around a building, but actually, like, touch is going to be really key. So I think you're working on something really important, and I can't wait to see where you take it next. So speaking of important things, Les, you've got the SureWin. Have you gotten to try the Pico yet? The Raspberry Pi Pico?
not yet.
So because that's the latest Pi, and we're all about new and cool stuff. We've all got our Picos here. So
just within reach.
Yes. Well, in my case, seriously, because my 8-year-old comes in and he just grabs them off my desk. I have to keep ordering more. So, Les, you have some more neat Pico stuff to show us, right?
I do indeed, yes. And it's a good excuse, Avram. So you need to buy more Picos because the children are stealing them. Great excuse. Borrowing, yeah. So I've got on the desk right now more Pico boards, and I've got one that's pretty exciting, really. So I'm going to go to the overhead camera so you can see what I'm talking about. So right now, there's a whole desk of Picos. There's at least, let's see, 4. There's 5 Picos on the desk that I can see, 6, including one in the corner, the 2040 over here.
It's beautiful.
It's a lovely thing. But what I'm interested in is this purple board here. This is the Maker Pi Pico from Citron. And this is a bit of a bargain. I'm going to go through it really quickly. It's what it got. You can see around the perimeter, we've got these white connections. Those are Grove connections that we can use to plug in sensors, such as I've got here, a potentiometer and a relay switch here. Other things, we've got a speaker just here. We've got buttons built in, a reset switch. Every Pico owner wants a reset switch. We've got a audio output, micro SD, and hidden around the edges here are LEDs. So I'm going to just play a very quick demo of what comes with this board to show off what it can do.
Ooh.
So you've probably heard a little beeping then. It's Mario. And you can see all the LEDs lighting up. There's an RGB LED. I believe it's a NeoPixel. I'm not entirely sure. And you can hear the music playing again. It's going to go off in a second. If you want to turn that off, by the way, you can. There's a switch here to turn that off. It's really handy, especially if you're in a classroom. But it's the LEDs around the edges that I really like, because if you're doing a prototype of a project and you're not sure if something's working, say your relay switch here isn't working, it isn't clicking, you can see the LED for that output working, so you can see that something is happening. So I wanted to see what we could do with this board really quickly. So I wrote a little bit of code. I'm not going to go through it entirely, because that's just quite a lot of code there. All it is, I'm setting up the different components. So I'm setting up the potentiometer for what pin it's on, which is pin 27. It's an analog input. I've got a relay on pin 5, so there. I've got a buzzer which is built into the board, and I'm setting the frequency of the buzz at the start to be 500, which I think is 500 hertz. The while true loop is just going around and it's just checking to see if the signal from the ADC potentiometer is greater than 32,000, which is the trigger point. If it is, turn the relay high, so turn the relay on, and then play a series of notes. So I think it's C, D, and G. And it's going to appear on the OLED screen, which is just, go to the overhead camera again. There's an OLED screen just there. It's going to put some text on the screen to show that something's happening. So the goal is the relay will turn on when I turn the potentiometer. So I'm going to load this code now. There we go, no errors. So you're going to hear the relay click, the screen will flash something, and this little buzz is going to play some music. Well, we say music, it's 3 notes. So I'm going to turn this around now. LED comes on because the relay is connected. I've borrowed a 3 volt and a ground connection here to make that work. And the OLED's telling me that there's high voltage, so be careful, because these relays can be used with mains power, but obviously only do that if you know what you're doing, because mains power will kill you. But this is a great board, and you've seen in a review already, I've had a look at the Seed Grove kit, which is just here. That's just under $4 for that board, not including the Pico. $4 for all those Grove connections, and it's a really great board. It's got the editor's choice, actually, for that. But I think this could be something else, because this is only, including a Pico soldered to it, just under $10, $9.90, plus shipping, which is an absolute bargain for this board. I really do like it. And there's something else on this board that I've not touched on just yet. If we look to the bottom right corner here, it has a header for an ESP01. Now, if you're in the ESP world, you'll know the ESP01 is the brains of an ESP8266. It's like the little original breakout chip, almost, the 6-pin chip. It fits straight in there, and I'm making inquiries to see if we can get Wi-Fi working with this board, so we'll have Wi-Fi for a Pico. But I'm saving that for another day.
That looks like a really useful board for classroom environments.
Definitely. Cytron do some great stuff. I've personally bought some of their stuff before. They've got an Arduino, which has a similar feature for all LEDs built into it. And they've got a motor control board, which is just really easy to use. It works with everything. I've plugged it into an Arduino, Raspberry Pi, Microbit, and believe it or not, a Commodore 64 from 1983. And got motors working with that.
That's fantastic.
Wow, that's awesome. So what have you been working on this week, Ash?
Robots. I'm glad that we had SureWin on today because it's all robot themed. Okay, so I've got a cool new update to show you guys. If you watch the show regularly, you have probably seen the 3D printed spider bot that sits on the shelf behind me. We have finally upgraded it to use a Raspberry Pi, which is something we talked about when I first demonstrated it before. So before I get it down and show you what's new, I want to show you what it used to look like. So I'm going to have a quick video here of, the older robot. You can tell that it's much smaller. It has a 3D printed shell out of purple filament. And, well, it doesn't have a Raspberry Pi inside, so that's not good. I needed to fix that. So let me get this bad boy off the shelf behind me here. He is also 3D printed, and it's got a lot of the same guts. So the old robot is no more. He's been disassembled. The frame has been thrown away. This is the new body. And inside, I can't quite open him, he's put together, but inside we have the Arduino board that the old one was using, a Raspberry Pi Zero W. At each leg, there are 4 legs here. They've got 2 servos on each of them. And let's see. My fiance designed a 3D printed this case. It's got power switches. It's got an LED here, which will light up to indicate that the 5-volt regulator is working. There's a hole in the front for a camera module, which is one of the coolest parts because you can actually use a web interface with this. So he used Express, which is a framework for Node.js and Socket.io to design a whole interface to control it. I'm going to show you what it looks like here. It's got arrow keys to move it forward and back. It has a live camera feed of whatever the spider bot can see. The arrows on your keyboard will work if you press those to drive it around. There is a slider at the bottom that can make it walk slowly, normal speed, or fast. But fast is kind of, a little bit subjective there, I guess. But there's also a few commands that you can pick, like sit, stand, wave, and he can do a little dance and things like that. So it's got some pre-programmed animations in it. And let's see, what else is new about it? Oh, well, I'm sure you're curious about power, Avram. You and I always talk about like what can we do to improve how we power our cars and bots like that.
No question about it. That's a big issue.
So inside, it's actually got 2 Panasonic 18650 batteries, and it seems to last a little while. We haven't pushed it to its limit, so I don't know. I don't have any way of monitoring the power to have an indicator of when it's low, and we haven't pushed it to see how long it takes for it to die. But the web interface runs on the Raspberry Pi Zero W inside, so it's controlling 2 boards, all these servos. It's a little bit beefy. So yeah, that's what we've been up to. I would show you a live demo, but one of these servos, it's been running really hot, and whenever I turn it on, its leg kind of falls limp, so I can't quite get him to run around for us today, but I can show you guys later whenever it's up and running.
So I want to bring a question from Fire Lord Nora, who's learning to program, and I really appreciate questions like this because it kind of assumes that we have expertise, which at least the other people on this call do. Last question. So I learned faster by looking and writing on a piece of paper. Can that also work with writing code as a draft? What do you folks think? What do you think, SureWin?
Can you repeat that? Writing?
So she asks, learn faster by looking and writing on a piece of paper. Can that also work with writing code as a draft?
Yeah, it can. But for me, I like to test everything as soon as I write them. So I go run it. For example, every 5 codes, I run it. Yeah. So, but sometimes when I don't want to be sitting in front of my desk, so I print it out and then go to my bed and just work on it. Sometimes good ideas come from it.
Yeah.
Hey, Avram, I got the robot to work with you.
Let's see it. Please do.
Sorry.
Please do.
Apparently, the problem was that I didn't have the Wi-Fi went down, so I was checking, and that's the only reason why it didn't work, because it's connecting to the Wi-Fi, right? So here you go. Index finger, middle finger.
Oh, very good.
Ring pinky finger, point, and then
Oh, that's amazing.
Pretty fun project.
You were so close to an internet high five.
Imagine if you had somebody else. Yeah, think about this: a socially distant handshake.
There you go.
Yeah.
I also have another one. So one of the when I showed this off to the Raspberry Pi community, they said, no, why can't you now you can actually play rock paper scissors with the robot. So maybe you should can try that now. Hang on. Rock paper scissors. Okay. It doesn't really let me win.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
That is amazing. Are you going to post up the code for this on GitHub or somewhere where people will be able to see how you did it?
I actually don't have GitHub as of the moment. It probably will need to do that soon.
Fantastic! It's just such a brilliant project and just really exciting for what you could do. I can't wait to see where you take this next, adding motion to that robot. Maybe I would love to see a situation, which I know is probably pretty difficult, where you could wear a glove with it and get haptic feedback from what it touches. so it could actually feel things for you.
Yeah, I saw a project on the internet actually on the gloves having haptic feedback. They're using magnets. So if, for example, you're holding a phone through the robot, and you won't be able to squeeze your own hand if something is stuck in the robot hand. So that would be cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's the next step to being just having completely remote presence, which is awesome. So
I mean, VR controls, that would be incredible for VR controllers, just having gloves you slip on and then your world, you could just interact with it.
I think there's some
Definitely.
VR things that do that, but I haven't seen somebody really tie it into a robot. Somebody asks, can you remotely play piano with it?
Even if I do it myself, I wouldn't be able to play piano, but I could probably press some keys.
Yeah. That's well. I mean, that's kind of next level with the haptic feedback. Um, so one more thing that we had on our list for today, and like SureWin, my demo is not working as it should, but it is somewhat working. So I want to share this. Lately, my son and I have done a lot with controllers, trying to figure out how we can make things into a Switch controller. We've been down a huge rabbit hole trying to get a Raspberry Pi Pico to act as a Nintendo Switch controller. We can get it to act as a regular controller in Windows, but a Switch controller apparently has a higher standard. But then we found a library that allows you to create a wired Switch controller using an Adafruit trinket as your microcontroller. But then we also found something that is fairly new from I'm not sure the name of the person who created this, but there is a GitHub from Robert Martin that called Joy Control. And what Joy Control does is it allows you to use Bluetooth to remotely control your Nintendo Switch. So in effect, you create your own Bluetooth Switch controller, and it's written in Python. Now what I'm going to show you here is that this works from a terminal. However, it's easy to see how you could turn this into a real remote. You could turn this into a real remote controller by attaching buttons to the GPIO of the Raspberry Pi. So I've set this up, and here's my terminal, which is running Joy Control, and you can see it says command at the bottom. And what I really wanted to be able to show you through the magic of video capture cards is that it actually works. But so if I type right here, it's going to move the joystick to the right. So, and if I hit A, it's going to hit the A button. So how am I going to demo that? Well, the quick and dirty way would be to take you over to my other monitor here, where I have the Switch hooked up. And if I go right again, if I type right again, you will see that it moves right. If I type left again, it moves left. If I type up, it's going to move up. And so the one thing that's a little bit tricky here is the original pairing of this controller. So you have to, this is a really simple, we'll get back to my screen here for a sec. This is a really simple Python script to install. If you look at, here's the GitHub page for it. All you need to do is to clone this GitHub. Make sure you have the appropriate dependencies installed. Apparently, this will not only work in Raspberry Pi, but may also work in other Linux devices. And then when you run this, script. And when you run the script, what it will do is it will give you a message saying, I'm waiting for you to go to the change controllers screen on Nintendo Switch. Once you get there, it'll hit the buttons to pair your controller, and then you can start using the command line to the command prompt to move your stick around. If you have ever paired with that Nintendo Switch before and you try to do it, I found that it doesn't work. So you have to unpair from the Switch, or there's another command line argument that you can give it that will give it the MAC address of your specific Nintendo Switch, and then you'll be able to get in. So you can see that, okay, just hitting A and just hitting A and going left, right, and up with with the command prompt is cute, but is not really how one would wish to play Nintendo. But you can see how easy it would be to take the Python from this and replace the command prompt with other things like hotkeys on your keyboard, physical buttons that you attach to the GPIO. Even a web-based interface with Flask would probably do the trick. So I found that kind of neat because it's yet another way that you can spoof having a controller. And our catchphrase at Tom's Hardware, and I think in the Raspberry Pi community, should probably be not because you should, but because we can, right? It's not like we need to create another way of our own Bluetooth controller. I mean, I'm sure it's just as easy to buy a Bluetooth controller and not that expensive, but there's something special about when you can do something yourself and make it work your way. So with that, I want to thank SureWin for joining us. It was really a privilege to see your robot, and we can't wait to see where you take it next. Please keep in touch. And thank all of you who've been listening and watching. As always, we are on every Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. GMT, and sadly, in the Philippines, 3:30 a.m. Philippines time. So thank you for those of you who stayed up. But if you don't want to stay up till 3:30 a.m., you can always catch us on YouTube or Facebook, where we keep these videos forever, and as an audio podcast, wherever you find your podcast. Just look for the podcast. Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you. See you guys.